Hi, everybody. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me, and really apologize for not being able to be there at the workshop. So in this talk, I will give you some lessons that I learned in the past few years about the governance of AI ethics within the company where I work, which is IBM. And so I will describe what we do at very high level, and then draw some reflections and lessons from what I learned over the years. So, of course, AI ethics is about taking the best out of the technology that we have right now, and avoiding or mitigating the risks. So, AI now is at the level of being able to generate content, besides being able to interpret content, like it was until a few years ago also. And that this has many opportunities for applications, for performing complex tasks, for increasing in productivity, building a solution in a shorter time, using many different data modalities, but at the same time it also introduces additional risks. So on those slides, I just put some of the risks that can be identified. And you see that I divided into three categories. The bottom ones are the traditional risks, the risks that were there that we knew already and where we had also ways to identify them and mitigate them in traditional machine learning, so not generative AI. So we already knew about bias in the data and in the way the model is built. We knew about the issue of explainability and transparency and so on. Then we had some amplified risks, so risks that they were already present before generative AI, but now they are amplified with the use of generative AI. So the impact on jobs, on environment, because of all the energy needed for the training, impact on human agency, because now generative AI can be used also to make decisions with the trend on agentic AI. And also the issue of over and under reliance. With traditional machine learning, most of the time we had the issue of people not trusting enough, maybe the AI. Now we also have many people that trust AI too much because maybe they're not aware of the limitations of all the risks, and because AI can generate content that is very high level, for example, text. And then there are many new risks that refer to the content that is generated by generative AI. So the bias in the output, the copyright infringement, the fact that the output can, especially text, can be harmful, violent, toxic, the spreading of disinformation, the possibility of use these systems for getting information on how to do dangerous actions, hallucinations, of course, so generation of false but very plausible looking plausible content, and many others. So AI ethics is about being able to tackle and understand all these issues and then find ways, technical and non-technical, to address these risks. So at IBM, we have tackled over the years these issues with AI ethics with three different levels. One is internally, so what we do internally with the technology, and all the processes that we put in place, and the governance especially that we put in place with our internal use, the use for our clients and our partners of AI. Then having a lot of multi-stakeholder partnership to learn from the other stakeholders, to consult, to share, and to define together the best practices. And then also with the relationship with policymakers to bring our point of view and to help them understand the best way to, according to us, to regulate AI. So let's start from the internal side. So internally, several years ago, we started, as many other companies, with some principles, very high level. So these are the ones that you see on the left. The purpose of AI is to augment human intelligence. Data belongs to their creator, and this is very related to our business model, where our clients are not individuals, but are other companies like a bank or financial institution or another kind, or a government or a hospital. So we take the data from our clients, we generate a solution for them, but the data belongs to them. So we don't reuse the data for other clients or other solutions for anybody else. And then the focus on the fact that AI should be open and transparent. And here the focus on openness, open source release of the models and so on, is really important, as well as the transparency, because we believe that being open and transparent is the best way to have the technology vetted, scrutinized by everybody, and that brings additional advantage in terms of ethics and safety. So very high level principles on the left, that then we decided to go a little bit more into the concrete actions with what we called our pillars. And the pillars are these that you see on the right, so explainability, fairness, robustness, transparency and openness again, and the privacy and intellectual property. So the principles are the top level, meaning very, very high level, very useful to give us an idea where we want to go, how we want to behave, but not really useful for everyday work and actions. The pillars are already telling us how the technology that we build and the solutions that we build should behave. So it should be fair, explainable, robustness, and so on, with different with different weights among these different pillars for different solutions. And then we also introduced the not only how the technology should behave, but also once we build the technology, how it should be deployed and how it should be used. So the impact dimensions, we call them, that have to do with the impact of the AI on individuals, so the human agency and trust to avoid hallucinations or make people aware of hallucinations, the deep fakes, the misuse, and so on. The impact on society, so what we call societal sustainability, so impact on jobs, impact on education, the inclusive deployment, the possible loss of control, and so on. And then the impact on environment, so the environment sustainability of using and training and using AI systems. So from these principles and pillars and impact dimensions, then this is the basis of our framework, but then we had to go much more concrete, because developers don't work with principles, they work with very concrete tools, directives, guidelines, and so on. And so we went even more concrete. And we decided to have, for all these actions that we were putting together in the company, to have a governance a governance model by an AI ethics board. So over the years, we decided at some point to put together something that was not existing in the company. So this AI ethics board that has representatives from all the divisions of the company and is well positioned in the overall governance of the company. So means that it reports to what we call the Policy Advisory Committee, where there are all the SVPs of the company. So if there is a need to escalate or to tell or regularly tell what the ethics board is doing, it goes to that Policy Advisory Committee that can help. And then it's also well connected also with the business units, with the people that actually do the job, build the technology, or not just build the technology, every business unit. It can be marketing, communication, government relations, research, of course, product, software, and so on. So the AI ethics board, again, is co-chaired by me, the IBM AI Ethics Global Leader, and by the IBM Chief Privacy and Trust Officer. I bring more the research and the AI perspective, and Christina Montgomery, the IBM Chief Privacy and Trust Officer, she's from legal background, so she brings more a legal perspective. But then on the board, there are representatives of all the business units And not only anybody from the business units, but people that can make decisions for that unit, because when the AI Ethics Board makes decisions, then they have to be brought to the various business units if the decision is relevant to that. A very important a very important thing is to link very well this board with the business units, because otherwise the business units wouldn't even know what the board is doing and which decision it makes. I say decisions because this is not an advisory board. This is a board that makes decisions about many things related to AI ethics, like, and I will tell you more precisely about, like which deal can be signed with our clients. So if they are raising some red flags in terms of AI ethics, the board discusses with the team, and then the deal doesn't get signed until the board and the team together approve that, because we think it's aligned to our principles. So the board is really something that has a very important impact on all the business units. And what you see here, the AI ethics focal points, these are additional people, not board members, that serve as the link between the board and the business unit and one specific business unit. So they bring down decisions from the board to the business unit, and they bring up to the board feedback, challenges that the business units may encounter in implementing that decision, or even grassroots initiatives that are done from the business unit and can be elevated and scaled at the level of the whole company through discussion with the board. So one thing that the board does that is very important is to, as I mentioned, to evaluate use cases, so solutions that we give to clients. If the solution has a red flag in terms of AI ethics, then the focal points are the first ones that identify that red flag, and they decide whether that solutions has to be discussed with the board, or maybe the red flag is not really bringing any issue, and the deal can be done without discussion with the board. So when the board considers a particular use case, it considers 3 dimensions. The technology itself, so is it fair, is it explainable, is it respect privacy, is it transparent, all the pillars that I mentioned. Then it also considers how the client is going to use this technology, and many times some uses are not allowed, or many times in the contractual agreement with the client, we put some conditions, like you should only use this for certain use case and not for others, or the opposite, you can only use it for what we have agreed, and is not you cannot use it for anything else. And the third dimension is the client itself. If we are not comfortable in partnering or giving to this client some piece of technology, then that is also something that that does not allow us to deliver that solution. So this is a very important part of what the board does. We regularly meet to examine many use cases, all the board members together with the team that has produced that project, that solution for a client, in order to really make sure that the technology that we deliver is only the one that is aligned to our so the focal points, I already told you about the focal point role to help these business units follow what the board has decided, but also to bring what the business units produce in terms of AI ethics tools or solutions also at the level of the board, because maybe they can be used by the whole company. We also have another set of people that are helping the activities of the board, besides the board members, besides the focal points, and besides, of course, the project office, people that support all these activities. We have what you see here at the bottom right, that are the Tech Ethics Advocacy Network. These are people that can be in any business unit that are interested, beside their everyday job, to work in some of the work streams of the AI Ethics Board. And they express their interest, they bring their expertise, their interest in some AI ethics issue, and then they are matched with the most appropriate current work stream of the board, and then they work for that work stream on a voluntary basis for the duration of that work stream. So they are additional people that want to know more about AI ethics, they are interested, and they bring their expertise, no matter the unit where they work, in some of the work streams of the board. And so this is the advocacy network, and anybody can join this, again, advocacy network, while the board members and the focal point are decided at the level of the board. Another important thing that the governance of the board is in charge of is to help developers understand which methodology to use to take care of the AI ethics issues. So we developed something that we call the ethics by design methodology, which is a playbook for developers that adds some steps in the various phases of the AI life cycle. Some steps are additional technical steps, like you have to test for bias, you have to use the bias detection or mitigation tool, and so on. And the other steps are governance steps that have to be added. So here are some examples in various phases, so phases of planning or scoping the solution, collecting data, building and training, validated, deploying, and so on. So this methodology has to be followed by all the developers that develop an AI model or a solution based on AI for our clients. And so these governance steps that we put into the and technical steps that we put into the what the developers do every day, it's important, and I will say later more about that is very well integrated with what the developers were already doing. Because if it's not well integrated, then the adoption will not be very high. And we have seen that at the beginning, a few years ago, when we put it together, this methodology, we did not integrate it very well. It was an additional layer on top of what they were already doing, and so they were not really they were not adopting it, all the developers, because it was too much additional work compared to what they were doing. So over the years, we successfully integrated into the processes that were already following. And so now it's adopted much more because of that integration. So it's not enough to put together a playbook and tell them, oh, that's what you have to do, but also it's needed to integrate the new processes with the existing one. This methodology, ethics by design, also include several tools that we developed, and they are open source, about all the AI ethics pillars, like one about explainability, it's called AI Explainability 360, AI Fairness 360, one for robustness, one for transparency, the AI Fact Sheet 360, one for privacy, and so on. So these tools help developers in some of the steps that we added to their development life cycle. But again, the tools would not be enough without the methodology that tells them how to use them, but they are very useful to support the work of the developers. On the right-hand side here, you also see that not only we do things internally following that methodology and what we put together and the tools, but we also inject what the AI Ethics Board does into our products. So, for example, Watson X, which is a platform that has something related specifically to governance and ethics, but also the other products from IBM. Another important thing that the board does is educating all the people working for the company with several modules. Some of them are very specific for developers, and some of them are specific to specific activities. So there is one about the ethics by design methodology, but then there are also modules about AI ethics in general for everybody. And we also injected in the business conduct guidelines that every IBMer has to take every year a module that has to do with AI ethics. So everybody should be aware of AI ethics issues so that to spot them also in whatever they do in their everyday job. But of course, not everybody has to be very, for example, very knowledgeable or knowing all the details of the ethics by design playbook, because this is supposedly for developers. As I mentioned, Watson X is the latest platform that IBM uses to build AI solutions. And here I just mentioned that it's important to see the relevance that is given to the governance part. So the governance of building an AI model is one of the three main components of this platform. And this is just showing that we believe that to build a successful AI solution is not enough to have the necessary data and to build the AI model out of the data, but also to understand the governance that you have to be put in place. So the responsibility, transparency, explainability, and so on. So many of the things that we did, for example, you may remember in the first slide, I had this long list of risks. Well, that long list, which we have in actually a much longer list, that long list is embedded in Watson X governance with what we call the risk atlas, that is a searchable database of these risks, where everybody, our clients, can search for the risk, understand the relevance of that risk for their solution, understand why is that a risk, why is that a concern, and even given examples from the media reporting on examples of that risk actually concretizing in some real life situation. As I said, the integration of these governance activities is very important. So the governance of the AI life cycle, like the ethics by design methodology, the governance of AI ethics in terms of the AI ethics board and all its activities, as well as the governance in terms of regulating and having to build compliance with the existing or forthcoming regulations. So we put everything together because before doing it in an integrated way, these three different things were separate. They were asking maybe the same questions to the same people, and so people were confused on what they needed to do. So there was a very strong effort into this integration of the various kinds of governance that are needed around building and then using AI. And that's it's not something that maybe perceived as very, I don't know, very innovative in terms of AI, but is really fundamental in connecting what we do in the various business units, in the research, in the compliance, in the products, in the consulting, and so on, and what we do internally also with AI and with the risk use case risk assessment. So, as I said, this is internal work. The AI ethics board is an internal governance for the whole company and tells everybody what to do inside IBM, but also what to do with our clients. But then we want to have a lot of partnership with many AI stakeholders. So, for example, the latest one is called the AI Alliance, has been founded by IBM and Meta, and now has more than 100 members, and is all focused on understanding how to build open innovation, meaning releasing models open source, what are the issues, what are the best practices, and so on. So then we have the Data and Trust Alliance, the Tech Ethics Lab in collaboration with Notre Dame University, the Rome Call for AI Ethics, the Privacy Association for Privacy, the Partnership on AI, the collaboration with MIT. So you see many different collaborations with many stakeholders, and many of these are multi-stakeholder, each one of them, like the Partnership on AI, for example. So I will just go a little bit in detail in 3 of them. So one is the Partnership on AI. We co-founded this in 2016, and it's about defining together companies and civil society organizations best practices around AI. For example, some latest work of the Partnership on AI is the guidance on deploying foundation model, or the risk mitigation strategies for open foundation model. And so that's something that really was maybe the first multi-stakeholder partnership that was put together by companies together with civil society organization. The second one is the Rome Call for AI Ethics. This was published in 2020. It's not something concrete that delivers new work every time, but is a document that defines some principles around AI. And here you see what the 6 principles are that are very aligned with what we have in terms of our framework and our pillars. So transparency, inclusion, accountability, impartiality, so fairness, reliability, and privacy. So it has been signed by many companies and also religious institutions, although there is nothing religious inside the content of this document, but it has received many signatures, the latest one by many by 11 Eastern religion, and you see the picture at the bottom right, that was done in Japan a few weeks ago. Another one is the partnership with Notre Dame University, where there are many ethicists, and where we built this collaborative tech ethics lab that does many projects in collaboration with IBM. For example, one that we are doing right now, and we published a paper even a few days ago, is about understanding and helping companies understand the return on investment in AI ethics in a very holistic way, not just about tangibles. So that, because many companies, even clients, ask us, why should I invest in AI ethics? And so one of the projects is about that. And then many other projects in collaboration with IBM, but also if funds that has called for funding to many other people in universities all over the world. And then the last one, as I said, the most recent one is the AI Alliance, which focuses on open innovation and inclusion, because open innovation, we think that supports human agency and inclusion, and also makes the users of these large language models more like co-creators, because in open source can help users to add more components, add more guardrails, and so on. Sorry. So the last layer is the relationship with policymakers. Regulations are coming. Here there is a picture of a few weeks ago about all the regulations, all the countries that are thinking or implementing actually a regulation and approving regulations about AI. So you see that is more or less everywhere that they build new regulation. In the States is a scattered approach, because that's the way that regulations are done. But in the European Union, for example, is the European AI Act that really that has been approved by the Parliament, the European Parliament already, and is going to be in having to be approved, having to be used all over Europe very soon. So we regularly talk with policymakers in many of these territories to bring them our point of view about regulating AI. And this is very, very succinctly what we think about regulating AI. So we think that AI should be regulated by analyzing the risk of the uses of the technology and not associating risk in principle with AI techniques or algorithms. So many AI techniques can be used in many different ways. So the same technique can be used in very high risk decision scenarios and also in very low risk ones. So that's why we believe that the risk should be associated to the deployment scenarios. And this is, for example, what the European AI Act has done. So it has identified several high-risk scenarios where the regulation puts more obligations for AI providers, AI users, and so on. So not associating the risk to the AI per se. Also, AI builders and deployers should be accountable, of course, and then we also support this open AI innovation. So, for example, our large language models, the Granite series, has been released open source. Besides regulation, there are also many other things that are similar to regulation, but they are not really laws, like the voluntary code of conduct in Canada, the US executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI that has some commitments, voluntary commitments on AI by the White House, the AI risk management framework on NIST. So there are a lot of things that companies can endorse and then make sure that they do according to that endorsement, but they're not really regulation. Another point of view that we had was already in 2020 about facial recognition, which we decided from that point on to never offer facial recognition technology to clients and then not being fully in control on how they use it, but then also some general statement about not supporting the use of AI for certain applications like mass surveillance and racial profiling and violation of basic human rights. So many companies have done something similar, but really to state the point of view so that regulators can see this point of view and then maybe discuss, but maybe they can be informed in making up. So let me finish with what I learned in being engaged in all these activities within the company, with partnerships, and also with policymakers. So there are 10 lessons that I learned, so I'll a bit elaborate about each one of them. So the first 3 lessons are about this governance that we put together in the form of an AI ethics board. So this is a centralized governance, it's not decentralized. We didn't leave the governance of AI ethics to each business unit separately, but we built a centralized one. And the reason is that only as we believe that a centralized governance can better think about in a very multidimensional way, while each business unit is really focused on what they need to do for that business unit, for their everyday job. So they may not be able to understand that even maybe delaying the building of a solution may be a good thing for the company if at the end the solution is better in terms of AI ethics. So a centralized governance, but well connected through the focal points and through the advocacy network with each business unit. Also centralized and not sitting in any particular business unit, because the board has representatives from every business unit, compared to possibly other companies that have an AI ethics team inside a single business unit that I've seen struggling sometime to be impactful in other business units because they are just people from a business unit, and then they try to tell other business units you should behave like this or like that. A company-wide approach, not a team inside a business unit. And then a governance body, this board, that is a decision-making body. It's not a board that advises the team on what to do or advises the developers or the best practices. No, it makes directives. It makes decisions about the use cases and how the company should use the technology and how should be the technology that we release to our clients. Okay, the next two lessons learned is about the integration that I already told you about. I thought that building the tools and telling developers how to use them was enough to have an adoption of this methodology, but I realized that that was not enough. Not just me, we realized that that was not enough. Again, so we needed to really do a lot of effort in integrating this new methodology, the AI ethics by design, with the current processes that developers were doing. So they were already used to do in the AI life cycle to do security by design, privacy by design. And then we were adding AI ethics by design with maybe similar questions than the other ones. So they were a bit, not really, that was not helping and facilitating their work. So the integration was very important, also because there were a lot of duplicative requests to them or even gaps. And then the next one is that the principles and the pillars that I described at the beginning were, of course, very useful to define what we wanted to do and the various characteristic of how the technology should behave, transparent, fair, and so on. But were not helping anybody in understanding how to modify their way of doing things in their everyday job. So we had to go much more at the concrete level, at the actions, at the fine-grained actions of what everybody had to do. So full operationalization on the principles to get to concrete directives and guidelines. The next one is that we built the tools, and research in particular was very instrumental in building the tools, the toolkits to help around the various pillars. So a toolkit for explainability, and one for transparency, one for privacy, and so on. And that's in some sense is the easy part of addressing these AI ethics issues for a technical company, because a technical company sometimes it may think that okay, there is a problem with some technology, let's solve it with some more technology. And indeed the technology can help, but the tools were not enough, because with the tools only and no guideline about when to use the tools, how to use the tools, and a precise methodology, the developers really did not know. And not only when and how to use the tools, but also education about this AI ethics issue. So we had the toolkit for fairness, but it included many different definitions of fairness. So the developers needed to be educated on how to consult with the users or with the client to understand what was the right definition of fairness in that decision-making scenario, so that they can use the toolkit with that definition of fairness. So education, processes, consultation, and methodology were very important on top of building the tools. So really all these activities that were needed besides building the tools. So the tools were just the first step, and in some sense the easy one, because they come natural to build toolkits from a technological company. Another one is really being aware of the regulations. Well, first of all, making sure that everybody understands that AI ethics is not being compliant with the regulation. AI ethics is about doing something independently on the regulation. Even when the regulation is not there, you should build your AI ethics framework and do things according to that framework. But because following just the law, so saying I'm waiting for the law, when the law will be there, I will comply, is very short-sighted and not useful for society, of course, but also not useful for the company, because being able to tell your clients that you are dealing well internally and also in the solution that you deliver internally and also the solution about the AI ethics issues, it's also a competitive advantage, it's a differentiator. So besides following the values and being good for the societies. Even clients themselves ask us, what we do about bias. You're giving me this piece of technology. Did you test for bias? What is the result of the test? And so on. So, and also it's useful for a company, especially for a global company that has business in many countries with possibly different regulation, to have its own process for dealing with AI ethics, so that you don't have to change for every different regulation too much. The next one is really about the multi-stakeholder partnerships, to learn from others, share experiences, share mistakes and lessons learned, and then, really learn from each other. So that's very important, but it's also very important because it gives a place, a collaborative place where companies can engage and collaborate with civil society organization, and so understand really what these organizations think is good for society, and not just see that from the point of view of a company. The next one is the evolution. So AI evolves very rapidly, we know. And so this means that the AI ethics frameworks has to evolve as well. So for example, until a few years ago, we were not considering these new issues that were brought about by generative AI. So now we are considering them, and we have to embed them into our framework, into our guidelines, directives, and processes. As well as the AI safety issues that are being brought about by generative AI. So the AI ethics governance approach needs to be built in a way that is easy and fast and agile to modify depending on the technology. Not only depending on the evolution of the technology, but also because it's natural that a company that is less mature in terms of using AI may have a governance structure around AI and AI ethics that also is maybe in a preliminary form, and then it gets more and more elaborated and more stable and more effective as time passes. This is what happened to us as well. At the beginning, the AI ethics board was just a place to discuss about AI ethics issues. Then it became an advisory body, and then after a while it became a full-fledged board with the governance and the decision-making body. The last one is the role of AI research in the AI ethics governance. This is a very important role because AI research is, the AI researchers are very aware of the trends in the technology, of the advancement in AI capabilities, also not only in the AI capabilities, but also in the value alignment or the various techniques to make sure that the technology is beneficial. So AI research is really instrumental in making the internal governance aware of where AI is going and what is being done to address technically and from the researcher's point of view, to address the AI ethics issues. So AI research can really help define how the board and the governance evolves over time, because you can anticipate also the risks and the ability to address them. So I'll leave some links here. I'll give the slides available to the organizer of the workshop, so that you can have also these additional links to learn more. And I'll stop here. And I really thank the organizers and everybody for listening, and really apologize again for not being there. Thank you.